Hey guys, Bugcat7 here. Okay, it is Friday, May 24th, 2019, and I want to thank you for visiting the Stonewall Research channel here on YouTube. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And if you could hit the like button, guys, please do. Okay, well, we're here in the basement where I work because at the end of the day today, my boss said you got to take down this 1,000+ pounds of soft drinks and beverages and water and all kinds of goodies down to the basement. And that's what I do often on a daily basis, but I had to do a big one tonight. So it was like over 1,000 pounds. A gallon of water weighs 8 pounds, if you didn't know. And, you know, these cases of water here, weigh 48 pounds, do the math. And, have to bring down several of these and a whole bunch of other stuff. And this stuff over here and all kinds of goodies. And I get to drink some too. Okay, peach snapple, my favorite. Good when you work up a sweat and you need some quick sugar for energy. All right, well, I'm doing this to make a point, guys, and we're going to talk about it a little bit, okay? And look, the reason I could lift, 1,000-something pounds of liquid down to the basement here was because of the way these things are packaged, okay? This is packaged for a one-man operation, okay? If you're not, disabled in any way that prevents you from doing this, or weak or anemic or whatever it is, a single person can lift this thing, okay? It was designed to be so, okay? If there were two men always ready and able to do work, okay, then this thing would be designed for two men. You see? And when this comes on a skid, okay, when you get a whole bunch of drinks on a skid or a whole bunch of skids, and that's how you have to move them, then you have to step it up a notch, okay? Because once the weight of these things exceeds the lifting strength of however many men, let's say, you can get around a skid, 12 men, 16 men. Well, if the weight of the stuff on the skid exceeds the raw lifting power of the men, well, then you have to take it up a notch. You see, you have to have some sort of contraption that will lift that thing because you can only get so many men around a skid of drinks like this. You see? Okay? And even that skid, whatever weight that is, that cannot exceed the lifting power of, let's say, a, light forklift or a floor lift. Whatever it is, they have their weight capacities too, you see? Okay, there's all kinds of cost-benefit ratios to doing work, whether you're doing it today or you're doing it yesterday, okay? Now look at this wall right here, okay? This is the wall that divides the basements, okay? I work at the restaurant a couple of doors down over here, so there's a shared basement over here. But you see this block wall. This is, your typical construction block, concrete block, cinder block, whatever you want to call it, okay? And you can see my hand there, right? Well, this thing was designed with an intent. Okay, the intent of this is that a single man can lift this all by himself. You see, and there's a cost-benefit ratio to that. If there was a cost-benefit ratio that suggested that you should bring down a larger sized block, then you would do that. You see, so these things will apply to anything that's ever been built, you see. So let's say, for example, you're capable of cutting stone in this dimension flat on all sides, or any stone that you can cut flat, all right? why would you make polygonal walls? And sometimes blocks exceeding hundreds of tons, that has to be weighed. If you're capable of cutting the stone, why don't you just cut it down to this size? Well, if towing the 100-ton stone is easier than cutting it down to this size, well, then that would be your cost-benefit ratio applying to that, okay? But that doesn't really make a lot of sense to me, as to one way you can save. The idea is to be expeditious, and the best cost benefit would be for every job to get completed as soon as possible. So these notions of these things, that things were constructed over 10 years and 20 years and 30 years, and we have to say, well, we have projects today that take 10 years and 20 years, these massive projects, so why not back then for them and all this kind of stuff? Because it's not practical, okay? And the reason why a lot of projects take a long time is because of this cost-benefit ratio. Often what you'll hear is that long-term construction projects are started. By the time that these long-term construction projects end, they've already exceeded the ceiling of their original cost, because the time factor, okay, the increase of the price of goods, etc., the outmoded technologies that have to be revised and constant revisions. You have to understand something about construction, okay? And just to tell you a little bit about myself, okay, so all right, I've been a communications expert for many, many, many years, okay? That's what I originally started as, all right? I worked in the communications industry when the telephone company was first deregulated in the very early 80s. And I worked with the very first computers, which were telecommunication systems. I also worked on the analog stuff before that, the 1A1 and 1A2 commercial telephone systems, but I was one of the first guys to see this technology out there. I've been working with computers many, many, many years before people had their personal computers. So worked with that for many years, okay? I also have a degree in computer network operations, okay? An associate's degree, okay? I was Dean's List and Honors List. I've always been a top student in all my minors and everything else, okay? I'm also a journeyman carpenter, okay, that also work with many phases of masonry, cement, etc., okay? I was talking to my boss today, all right, about how we were sent to do a job in Midtown Manhattan in the Diamond District, where they had, in every one of these office buildings that has the precious gems in them, most of them have vaults, okay? Now, these vaults are specially constructed, okay? And they're constructed with what they call vault-grade concrete, okay? Here's where I also do a lot of the videos, guys, just for expeditious sake for me, because, I have to travel to get to where I'm going, and, for me, it's just easier to do it sometimes from here, but in any case, all right, so I think you get the gist of what I'm saying. So, the thing is why build in this polygonal block, okay? There has to be reasons for it. And, I had gone over on one of my videos on my channel about how this professor had thought that the angles of the polygonal stone walls had something to do with star charts, etc., etc. I have that here somewhere. But it was a very interesting proposition, okay? Yeah, it was Saxe Weimar, hidden language in stone, okay? And, another thing, guys, okay? The Peruvian Andes is mostly consists of a stone called andesite, okay? And andesite has a hardness on the Mohs scale, which is a scale that measures hardness. Okay, andesite has a hardness of 7. Okay, the hardness of andesite rock on Mohs scale is 7. Okay, that is what the andesite is, consists of. Okay, has a hardness of 7, right? And I think the hardness of granite is 6 to 6.5. Okay, on the Mohs scale. See, the Mohs scale right there, 6 to 6.5. All right. Steel has a hardness of 6.5, I believe. Steel is 5 to 8.5. All right. So if you have a steel file is generally 6.5 on the Mohs scale. All right. You can cut anything up to the hardness of 6.5 or less. That's what you can cut with a steel file. All right. Copper penny, 3.5 on the Mohs scale. Okay. And this hardness here shouldn't be confused with strength, because hardness and strength are two different issues. You see? They can be related, but they're two different issues, and I think you've noticed a couple of cars wrapped around oak trees and telephone poles. And what happens to the car? Completely obliterated. Okay, what happens to the oak tree? Not a lot. Oak is mighty strong. Stronger than steel, you see? Alright, so strength and hardness are two different issues. See what I'm saying? Alright? So here's the hardness of copper on a Mohs scale. 2.532. Okay, there's 540 alloys of copper. Okay. Never exceed a hardness more than 4 or 5. Okay. Like brass, for instance. Okay. Brass has a hardness, I think, of like 3 or 4. They give it on a Rockwell scale and the Grinnell scale, but they also have it here on the Mohs scale, 3 to 4 brass. You see that? Okay. Okay, what about bronze? Okay. 3. Okay. You can't cut anything that's harder, higher on the Mohs scale with something in the lower than that. You see what I'm saying? It's not possible. Okay, and this is what the mainstream PSYOP has been since the very beginning with this, by saying that, they did it with copper chisels, and I refer back to this video again about the BBC production there where they sent the engineer to move the 10-ton stone. They couldn't do it. All right, so you're telling me they're moving around 100 and 200 ton. A guy, with all the engineering technology in his head from today couldn't do it. All right. And then they built a raft for it, and it broke the raft in half, and the 10-ton boulder sank to the bottom of the river. Okay, so, and then the sculptor was working on a piece of andesite with andesite hammers, the exact same hardness of the andesite, for 10 days, night and day. Okay, and he could barely put a scratch in it. Okay, so you're not cutting up andesite with any form of copper, whether it has any sort of alloy in it whatsoever. It's never going to be harder than 4 or 5. Okay, cannot cut andesite. No matter, it doesn't matter about the strength of copper. It has to do with the hardness. Something lower in the Mohs scale can't cut something that's higher in the Mohs scale. Okay, you understand? Cannot be done. And this is part of the PSYOP directed. And I was going to do a presentation on that, because I had seen an article about it. And let me tell you something, when they find copper tools of any sort, this is coralline limestone, you can cut limestone with this, like 2.5 on the hardness scale. You could do that with brass tools, okay? But in order to, cut stone like that Saxide Wymon, all right, you would have to, have tools capable of cutting the andesite, all right? I'm not saying that they wouldn't have tools, but probably not primitive tools. They either had steel or they had some different kind of method or tools for constructing these things, all right? Again, like, you have to consider the cost-benefit ratio is also ace in my business class too. Okay, and I studied industrial design as well. Okay, top student. I did kind of math that's higher than calculus at one time. Don't ask me to do it now, because sparks will come out of my ears. But computer math is like off into the stratosphere. And this is actually a picture right here of Tambomake, of the picture I was trying to get, okay, of this spring here and how it's built on top of this bedrock, okay? So you can see the stone is built on the bedrock, and the bedrock obviously had to be cut. But the question is if you can cut all these right angles or cut any side of, why wouldn't you make it in a more convenient size? Okay, there must be a reason for that. Okay, and why wouldn't you make it in uniform size? Okay, just like the construction we do today. Like Clint Steele on the Kronos channel says, we have this, scientists say that we have the same capacity for intelligence as we've had since the beginning, 100,000 years ago, 200,000 years ago, okay? So doing things in a certain way or whatever is hardly surprising, and we see that they had the same capability at one time in Peru, South America, and elsewhere, and in Central America, Mesoamerica. They had the ability to create these perfectly square 90-degree blocks, just absolutely similar to contemporary work, on par with any precise work that we can do now, right? So they had the capability to do work with this sort of uniform 90-degree angle style, but for some reason they chose to do this. You see, for some reason they chose to do this. And you have to think about that, all right? And why they did it, and my feeling about it is that it's intentional. It's not because they had certain size stones that they could only work with or whatever. That may be a possibility, but it seems to me that one form of construction is, quite on par with contemporary construction, and this stuff here is quite different from that for a reason. Other than that, you got these andesite blocks and said, well, let's, make it easy on ourselves, and we have these certain size blocks. We'll just shape them into whatever sizes we can expeditiously, and that's the end of it. But obviously certain stones were chosen for different reasons, and I think it's more likely that it's intentional. Okay, and not just a matter of happenstance that they just had a certain size stone to work with, and they just chiseled it down into a size they thought they could use. It would still take a lot of picking, and a lot to pick from. Okay, and I don't know, but what you should do, and if you're a new subscriber, an old subscriber, and you haven't seen my video, and you might not have, but I did a video on cutting and moving large stone. Okay? In any case, one of the last things this guy was... Alright, so if you haven't watched this video, I highly suggest that you watch this video, and maybe you'll have a different opinion about what happens when somebody makes a claim. Okay, I know how they did it. They did it like this, and blah, blah, blah. Okay? I'm not saying that it's wrong or whatever, but just, again, if you're a new subscriber, old subscriber, and you haven't seen this video that I produced, okay, on moving and cutting large stones, okay, please do watch it, all right, and you'll see what it is that I'm trying to say about this particular subject, okay, and maybe after you watch this video, you'll have a different opinion about it. I'll put a link at the end of this video and in the description. So please do go and watch that. I'm not even sure that, some of my alternative research buddies have watched this video, but if you haven't, please do, okay? Because I have a lot to say about that in there that you might want to know about, all right? I don't want to go over here again, so I feel like I'm spinning my wheels, but I have a ready-made video there that, where I talk about it amongst other things. But check out this video. It's a pretty popular video on my channel, and you can see what I mean about, moving and cutting large stones before you even think about anything else. All right? So, in any case, guys, I just sort of wanted to show you that. I was going to do a different thing altogether. Maybe I'll do it tomorrow night, but I had to talk about this because there's a lot to think about here, I know there's many people out there who are always solving the riddles of the pyramids and the this and the that and, whatever it may be, there's all these claims, and, just watch my video here on moving and cutting large stones to see what I'm trying to say, and maybe after that, you'll have a sort of different outlook on what this is all about, all right? So in any case, guys, I just wanted to go through some of this stuff here because I've been thinking about it for like 24 hours, and I just had these things to say about it, okay? So there's a lot of reasons why things are done, but some of them are not readily apparent. You have to read into it more, and often it is that way with some very intelligent people who existed in the past, okay? And reasons why they do certain things that sort of are even alien to our understanding, okay? So think about it, all right? So in any case, guys, Budcat7 signing out. Thank you very much. Hit the like button, and I'll see you again real soon. Peace.